Hello, Enchantment of Eternity. Welcome. Another off-the-cuff review that I was not planning on doing because I don't have time, but I watched the show and I have a lot to say. So I'm just going to, not quickly, it's probably going to be a long video, but I'm going to rant without any script or anything and not going to edit in pictures or any bullshit like that. So just to throw this video out there as quick as I can. So first thing, just to get it out of the way, yes, I dyed my hair green. I just felt like it, that's why. And it's just did it. So I said, because I record my videos, typically my pre-recorded videos, my Star Trek reviews, I record them so far in advance, it actually will be a while, probably a month, before the green hair actually shows up on those videos. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The other point of order is if there is an annoying noise, that's my computer. The fan in my computer is having a fit. It's been doing that a lot recently, so there's a couple of my Star Trek reviews that have this too. Nothing I can do about it, so yeah, just have to ignore it. So anyway, so I watched The Last of Us Season 2, and so this video will contain spoilers for The Last of Us Season 2, so I'm just going to jump straight into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the show, you probably don't want to watch it. Also, I'm going to be talking about a lot of spoilers for a lot of other shows as well, so it's actually more of a blanket spoiler warning for like every show I talk about, because I know sometimes I mention a show when I'm reviewing a different show and I give a spoiler, they're like, hey, you didn't give a warning for that show, I'd never seen it. Well, now I am. Now here's your warning. In fact, I don't know right now exactly what shows I want to give spoilers for, but editing mark, when I edit this in the future, I will put the names of the shows that I will spoil, and this review should be down there for you. Okay, so and so when I start talking about them, you know spoilers are coming. So anyway, I enjoyed The Last of Us Season 1 a lot better than I thought I would. I was hesitant to watch it because it sounded too much like The Walking Dead to me. I have no interest in the video game, never did. I don't care about any of these video game adaptations. Even after everyone started raving about it, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Because everyone raved about The Walking Dead too, and that sucked. So, I was hesitant to watch it, but then I think the main thing is my sister really liked it and recommended it, and we have similar tastes, not exactly the same, we disagree on quite a few things, but we tend to have similar tastes on if we like a show or not, so that made me at least want to check it out, and I did check it out, and it was way better than I thought it would be. It was much better than The Walking Dead. It's a very different show. And yeah, I really enjoyed Season 1. Now, Season 2, I've heard a lot of people complaining about Season 2. And I want to say I'm not one of those who are upset because they don't like Bella Ramsey and they don't think she can carry the show. I disagree. Pedro Pascal is amazing, but I think the show's fine without him. I think it is very bold. Obviously, they're just following the video game, so it's not that bold. But it is still bold, because they could have, decided to go against the source material and keep Pedro Pascal. So I think it was smart of them, very bold of them, to not do that. And I think Ellie, the character of Ellie, carries the show just fine. So I disagree very strongly with all the Bella Ramsey haters out there. And I remember seeing this meme of this guy sitting on the couch, like eating chips with his fat belly sticking out, and it says, "Oh, Ellie's not hot enough." So no, I don't care about any of that bullshit. So actually, I was really liking this season. I was really liking season 2, especially episode 2 was amazing. They had a White Walkers Game of Thrones-esque battle, which is not what I was expecting from the show. And at the same time, the whole thing with Joel being murdered, which again, actually, to be honest, I had that one spoiled for me because I watched a video about episode 1, and when they gave a spoiler warning for the spoiler section, I did not heed their call, and so I watched it, and so I knew that Joel was going to die. So it wasn't that shocking to me, even though I knew nothing about the game, but still was great. I still loved it at the way it was handled. It was amazing. Yeah, so it was very good. Then after that, it slowed very down. And here's the thing, and this is my main thesis of the video. This is my main point. I would have no problem with them slowing down like this if this was a 14-episode season. So they adapted Game 1 into one season, which makes sense. But they're splitting up Game 2. And in fact, I heard rumors that they're considering splitting it up into 3 different seasons. Season 2, 3, and 4. Splitting one game up into 3 seasons. And, honestly, again, I haven't played the games. I don't know exactly, but I have watch some spoilers for the rest of Game 2, if I'm being honest, because I was so frustrated with that ending of the season. I was like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to spoil myself because this is bullshit. But I'll put a pin in that. I'll get back to that. But yeah, so I don't know exactly what happens in Game 2. I got an idea, though, and it seems to me there was more material in Game 1. They could have made more seasons out of Game 1. Game 1 had a lot of different things going for it. At least Season 1 did. And they did it in one season. 9-episode season. And for some reason, they wanted to milk Game 2. And so they just went very slowly and stopped the season after 7 episodes. And then they're going to do another season, maybe 7 episodes of Abby, and then another season on top of that to finish it off. That's not concrete, though. I've heard this is rumors. I think I heard they're not sure. But if they do it that way, then really fuck this show. Because here's my main thesis. So, or not yet. But anyway, part of it. But anyway, the thing is, after I watched episode 5, which was great. Episode 5, I believe, was the one where it ended with Ellie, killing Nora and the spores infected. The way episode 5 started with the wolf people saying, that one woman saying she had to kill her own son because they all got airborne virus, got infected. That was super intense. That was actually a really good episode. But when it ended with a flashback with Joel, and then I saw the preview and it was all about flashbacks with Joel, I was like, wait, how many episodes are in this season? And I looked it up, and it was 7, and I knew right then and there that this season would disappoint me, that it would disappoint the fuck out of me. Because this is bullshit. They took forever to get to the point, and then they're doing an entire flashback episode, and then you're only going to have one episode after that to wrap things up. So I knew for a fact that they weren't going to wrap things up because there's no way they could wrap things up in one episode. So I knew I was going to be left hanging. But after seeing the finale, it was way worse than I thought it would be. It was even worse. Because after episode 5, I would have given this season a 9 out of 10. Even the slow episodes in episode 3 and 4 were a bit slow, but they still had good character moments and were building. So I was at a 9. But then after the finale, I'm down to a 5 to give my spoiler, or to give my rating up front and not wait till the end of the video. I give it a 5 out of 10. When it was at a 9, it dropped. And honestly, like episode 2 was like a 10. But yeah, it dropped because that ending was bullshit. It was... Those who've been around with me for my channel a long time ago when I was watching The Walking Dead, it reminded me a lot of the season 5 finale of The Walking Dead with Negan. And those who see my reviews for that know that I freaked the fuck out. I was screaming, I was yelling, I was like, what the fuck is this? And I stopped watching. I think I watched The Walking Dead casually, like for 2 seasons. Like, I think the next season I watched it week to week, and the season after that I just waited till the end and binged it. And I was like, yeah, fuck this show. I'm out. So I was kind of hate watching it at that stage. And I remember some people telling me that when I was upset and I was like, I'm not really going to watch, I'm not interested in the show. They're like, yeah, shut up. You're going to watch the show. They were wrong. I gave up, and I will not touch anything Walking Dead anymore. And it's because of that ending where I think they're called the Saviors. It was the big villain was Negan, and he was supposed to kill 2 people with a baseball bat, and or actually it was just 1. It ended up being 2, but as far as we knew, it was supposed to kill a person with the baseball bat. And instead of showing us who he killed, they just did a POV shot of him killing someone and talking, and so we don't know who it is, and then this season ended. So we had to wait till the next season started to find out who it was that he killed. And that's so much bullshit, especially since I've heard from people who read the comics, they knew exactly who he killed. And some people were saying, oh, maybe it's different. Maybe they're going to change it up from the comics. They didn't. It was the exact same people, or person, I should say, that he killed. Another person. In the show, he killed a second person, but in the comics, that person had died earlier, so he was already supposed to be dead, so they were just keeping up with the comics. But the point is, that ending was such bullshit. And because... just show who he's killing, and then leave the audience with that sinking feeling, oh fuck, that person died. And then that leaves sort of a hamper, that does incentivize people to come back. But it was so gimmicky. I was so upset. And I also didn't really like the way they handled the whole Savior storyline. It was so contrived, and they had supernatural powers. Like, they shouldn't have been that powerful. But regardless of that, I still could have went with it if it wasn't for that bullshit ending. And it's pretty much the same thing here. The whole bullshit with, Abby shoots, and did she actually kill Ellie or not? Oh, I think it's obvious that she didn't, because she's the fucking main character. I know next season's going to focus more on Abby, but she's still the main character. I think it was fucking obvious that that Ellie's not going to die. And so it pisses me off that they would even do that. That they would even do that shit. Now, I know what some people who played the game might say. They might be, well, that's what they did in the game, Mark. They, had Abby shoot, and they cut the black, and they went back and told Abby's story. Yeah, but here is the difference. The game, you could just keep playing it. It was in the same game. It's not like they ended the game there and you had to wait till part, 3, which there is no such thing. But it's like you had to wait for the next game to find out what happened to Ellie. That's not what happened. So you could just keep playing and find out immediately. And this is the difference, is that you had to wait 2 fucking years to find out what happened to in this situation. And that's bullshit. And this is a problem, and I've been talking about this before. This is a problem that's really, really, really becoming a huge thing in Hollywood, particularly with TV shows, also with movies in some regard, but mainly with shows, is that they don't know how to pace it correctly, they don't know how to end it correctly, and they cut at the wrong place and in a very contrived way. So here's the thing, like, when I made the same complaints about The Walking Dead, I heard people be like, oh, there are always cliffhangers, like, the Next Generation had the cliffhanger with the Borg, and I had to wait 3 months to find out. Ugh. So, apples and oranges, totally different thing. Because here's the thing, there's such a thing as a good cliffhanger, like Best of Both Worlds, and a fucking terrible cliffhanger, like this, and The Walking Dead. Because the thing is that the many differences between Best of Both Worlds and something like The Walking Dead or this. Star Trek Next Generation is an episodic show. It's not one story that's leading up to something. So that's a huge difference. That does make a huge difference. It's just one two-parter. The other huge difference is you only had to wait 3 months, not 2 fucking years. And I'm sorry, that does make a goddamn difference. And yeah, it not being episodic means, like, it's not the entire story of the show is not hinging on. I mean, in a way, because if they kill off Picard, then the show will be different. But still, it's like you would still have episodic episodes that are totally different than this Borg shit that's going on. And you know that the Borg's not going to take over humanity. But still, it could make a difference. So, but it's a totally different thing. And in regards to movies, like, the examples I can think of that ended at the wrong place, there's The Hunger Games. I'm not really into The Hunger Games. I don't even remember, but I do remember that the part 2 ended abruptly. The Matrix part 2 kind of ended abruptly, but in that case it's not as big of a deal to me because the part 2 and 3 is like one story, and they had to cut somewhere. I don't think where they cut was that bad. But the worst to me is the Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug. And it's sorry to say that as much as I like Peter Jackson, like, he has pacing issues. Like, even the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I still have a huge issue of where they ended Two Towers. They definitely should have showed more. They left way too much for Return of the King, which is why it was 4 hours. And they're like, oh no, it makes sense for the story of Two Towers to cut it there. That may be the case, but you gotta think of the trilogy as a fucking whole, and you can't leave too much material for Return of the King. So even though it does seem like you'd be packing a huge epilogue at the end of the Two Towers, it would have been what was better for the trilogy. And they kind of fucked Return of the King by cutting it too early. This is why, like, the only good version of it is like 4 hours long, like, because they left too much for it. But anyway, but the main issue, like, Hobbit was much worse though. Hobbit had pacing issues all over the fucking place. It was bloated and it had all this fan service and bullshit. But with the Desolation of Smaug, they cut, like, in the middle of the scene. I was joking before when I did my review. I joked that they might as well just cut Bilbo off mid-sentence and be like, oh, I know how to defeat Smaug. All we had to do was credits. Like, that's basically what they did. Like, they left, like, the tail end of that scene. Like, they cut in the middle of the scene and they left the tail end scene of Smaug destroying the town for the next movie. And that scene pretty much had nothing to do with the rest of the third movie. And it's obvious to me that the only reason that they did that is so they could have Smaug in 2 films and not just one, because they wanted to have him in the third film. It was fucking terrible. So with movies, the people who try to excuse this bullshit, the one thing they'll bring up is Empire Strikes Back. They're like, oh, well, Empire Strikes Back had a cliffhanger ending. Yeah, but again, it's the same example I gave before. Good cliffhanger, bad cliffhanger. Like, it makes a difference where you end. And so for that, I'm going to bring up Game of Thrones. And when I talk about Game of Thrones as a great show, just bear in mind I'm talking about only seasons 1 through 6. That's where the show ended after season 6. I don't know why they decided to, just end the show with, Daenerys coming, and they didn't show what happened when she got there and Cersei blowing up the set. But the show ended there. There's no such thing as season 7 or 8. They don't exist. But anyway, but Game of Thrones is a great example of how to do it correctly. Because here's the thing. So there's 10 episodes in each season of Game of Thrones. So where do you think that the big, huge event, the big, shocking event happens? Does it happen at the end of episode 10? Do you cut off right before the big, shocking thing happens? No. Episode 9, the penultimate episode. So every season, like, they didn't have Ned Stark getting his head chucked off, and then, oops, season's over. Now you gotta wait, a year to find out what happened. They didn't do that. Season 2, they didn't end, Battle of Blackwater. Now season's over, you gotta find out next season to see what happens afterwards. No, they didn't do that. Season 3, they didn't do the Red Wedding and be like, end the season with Catelyn dying and the Red Wedding ending, and season's over, you gotta wait next year to find out what happened. No, they didn't do that. Season 4, with the Battle at the Wall, they didn't be like, Battle at the Wall is over, so now we're gonna end it, and you're not gonna find out what happens to Stannis or any of the other fucking characters. You gotta wait next year to find out. Season 5, God, what even was season 5? Was Daenerys the thing? I think her, and and season episode 9 had a lot of things going, but it had the whole attack on Marine thing, and so they didn't end the season there. You got to see the aftermath, and then season 6. The Battle of the Bastards, and the Daenerys battle taking over Marine. They could have ended and say, we'll end it there. Battle of the Bastards over, season's done. No! They didn't do that. Every season had an episode that wrapped up the story, and it still ended in a way that set up the next season, that left things open, especially say at season 5, which ended with Jon Snow dying. Like, they didn't do this bullshit where they had, like, the equivalent to Last of Us would have been if they had, like, all the Night's Watchmen get out their knives and say, okay, we're going to kill Jon Snow, and then Jon Snow comes out and they go to stab him and they cut to black and don't show what happens. That would have been the equivalent, but did they fucking do that? No! They showed Jon Snow being killed. So they know how to end seasons properly, how to do cliffhangers properly. You have the Battle of the Bastards, you have the Battle of Blackwater, you have a wrap-up episode. You have the Red Wedding, you need a wrap-up episode to show the aftermath, but also set up the next season. This is one thing Game of Thrones, and again, only up to season 6, because that's all exists. But it's the only... Game of Thrones was so good with their finales of wrapping up the current season while at the same time setting up the next season. Instead of, we'll just cut right in the fucking middle of the action, right in the fucking middle of the scene. It's a gimmick. It's a marketing gimmick, and too many shows do this. Like, The Accolade, now, granted, it did have some sort of finality to it, but too much was left open. And they did the tease with, what's his face? I can't even remember his name. The dude that they mentioned in Revenge of the Sith. But they're like, Plagueis, Darth Plagueis. They're setting up Darth Plagueis, and they have Yoda at the end. Woo, and guess what? There's no more seasons of the fucking Acolyte, so the story ends mid-story because the fuckers couldn't come up with a more definitive ending to a season. This really irritates me And it's a problem I see throughout Hollywood. And there's probably more recent examples with movies, but they're probably movies I don't really watch or care much about. But but there's definitely a problem with, and it has to do with them trying to, we got to incentivize the audience to come back. We need the money. But the thing is like you can do that, but still do a good cliffhanger like Best of Both Worlds or something like that. You don't need to cut the story off mid-thing. And so getting back more specifically to The Last of Us. This should have been a 14-episode season. This should have been a halfway point of the season. If they want to, they can do like a mid-season finale and have like a 3-month break. Fine. No issue with that. But they're going to make us wait 2 fucking years. And I'm like, no, that's bullshit. You don't cut in the middle of the scene did she kill her or not, and make us wait 2 years. This is the problem with Hollywood. I almost want The Last of Us to be canceled now, because fuck them for doing that. And and House of the Dragon was just as bad. Now, some people try to make up the bullshit excuse that, it was HBO took 2 episodes away and there was a writer's strike so they couldn't write the episode. That's not what the showrunner says. The showrunner, according to him, it was always their plan to cut there because they couldn't afford to have that battle that's coming. They couldn't afford to have it in season 2 because there's too many other battles and shit in it. So, according to them, it was not HBO producers. Now, you could say, he's just lying. Like, why would he lie about that? But even if he is, it doesn't matter. That's the main thing wrong with the season. Like, if this really happened, HBO said, no, you can only have 8 episodes. They should have found a way around this. Like, if the writer's strike is going, then I don't know. Find some other way. But I'm sure that's not what happened. I'm positive because that's what the fucking showrunner said. He said that was always their plan to cut it there, and they cut it right in the middle of the fucking story. Like, this is something me and my sister and my friend Darren talked about when we covered it, is that the final episode 8 in an 8-episode season of House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 8, was a very good penultimate episode, because it's the kind of episode that would have been good leading up. In fact, if we're going to doing the Game of Thrones format, then it should have been a 10-episode season, because that Episode 8 should have been leading up to the penultimate episode where all the shit goes down, and then we should have had another episode after that to wrap up the season like Game of Thrones knew how to fucking do. And I can't think of many other examples, but most shows do know how to end properly. The Expanse is another example. One of my favorite show of all time. One of my favorite shows of all time. Maybe my favorite show of all time. Also did the same thing Game of Thrones did. They'd have all the shit go down in the second to last episode, and they would wrap it up. Or sometimes the shit would go down in the finale, but in a definitive way, in a very way that's wrapped up by the end, that shows the aftermath, that shows the consequences of what happened, rather than cutting mid, he's about to shoot someone, now cut to black, and then wait till next season to find it. And the fact that we have to wait 3 fucking years, I mean, maybe it's 2, but it doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter if it was 1. That is bullshit. Now, there's some other examples I could compare to, like Severance. Severance ended with season 1 ended with a huge cliffhanger, and there was a writer's strike and all this, so we had to wait 3 years to get the resolution. And it was like pretty shocking, like kind of in the middle of a scene. But it still was definitive enough. Like, they still wrapped up the storylines of season 1 enough in order to end it there. For what I mean by is that the equivalent of what Last of Us did, or Walking Dead and this bullshit, is if they had ended Severance in what is actually the penultimate episode. If they had ended it where the four of them are ready to do the overtime contingency and they go to do it, that's how the episode ended. Now, if they ended the season there, that would have been fucking bullshit. That would have been so much bullshit. In fact, when I was first watching that, I was worried that they would. I was like, holy shit, are they going to end the season there? When I saw there was another episode, I was like, oh, thank fucking God there's another episode. And then when that episode ended, I was like, good cliffhanger. I'm on the edge of my seat, but it wrapped enough up of the season to not feel like it stopped mid-story. Whereas if they stopped it after that episode when they were about to do the contingency plan, then it would have felt like it just stopped mid-story. It knew how to pace itself. And even season 2 had a kind of strong cliffhanger where you're like, oh my God, what the hell's going to happen? But it's still definitive. Like, it's that the story of that season has been wrapped up. And even though they left this cliffhanger over, but you get the sense, and I can tell this from what the show has done already, that cliffhanger is setting up for another story, for the story of season 3, that the story of season 2 is wrapped up. What The Last of Us is doing is not setting up for another story. It's setting up for the same fucking story, but from someone else's perspective. And I'm sorry. Again, I keep coming back to this should have been a 14-episode season. It should have. It just fucking should have. At the very least, they should have filmed both seasons back to back. Like, that's what Squid Game did. A lot of people complained that season 2 ended very abruptly. I didn't mind it all that much. Because, again, it felt like the majority of the story was wrapped up of that season. But the other thing that didn't bother me about it was the fact that they had filmed both seasons back to back, and that season 3 is coming out soon, that there wasn't going to be that big of a gap between seasons. But making us wait 2 fucking years, like House of the Dragon and fucking Last of Us is doing, is total bullshit. And something like The Acolyte, never gonna get resolved. Never. And I would also lump in Skeleton Crew in this same category, because they didn't. There's a lot of things about the world building, about the Planet Mysterious, that they didn't explain. I was expecting to explain, what does this work exactly? What, all these questions I had that they just didn't answer. They'd rather have this fun, wacky adventure thing. So that's why I hated that ending as well. So this is an ongoing problem with Hollywood, and we really shouldn't support it, because this would have been a really great season otherwise. But they were setting up for the whole situation with the wolves and the scars and the main character guy. God, I'm blanking on his name, but the actor who's in Westworld and What If, the guy. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, but like, they setting up this whole world, but doing nothing with it. They're just set up, story's over. Fuck you. Bullshit. It's bullshit for doing this, and Hollywood's got a big problem with this. And I don't think it's a creative problem where the creators just don't know where they end the season. I think it's a production problem. I think that the studio is being like, oh, well, let's spread it out. And it's kind of like, how they spread out the last Hunger Game book over 2 films and the last Harry Potter book over 2 films. They just want to milk it for more money. And that's what I get with this. Oh, we're going to milk it. Let's do 2 shorter seasons instead of 1 big long season so we can milk the money. It's a problem with greedy executives who don't really fucking know how to tell a good story. And I think the whole television situation is worse in 2020s than the 2010s. 2010s was like the golden age of TV. We're not in it anymore. Sorry to say, we're out of it. We're not in the golden age of TV anymore. I mean, that's not to say they're not great shows. There's still some great shows, but it's not as many, and it's not as overwhelming. And then we have bullshit like this happening more often. And the other show I was going to bring up, since I brought up the Best of Both Worlds comparison, is Strange New World. Because Strange New Worlds, and this is a modern show that just aired a couple years ago, their season 2 ended on a cliffhanger. And again, perfectly fine with that. It was kind of like in the middle of the action too, but perfectly fine, because it's okay to have some things hanging, but they didn't cut it in a place that felt like, like if they had cut it earlier when Pike was still on the planet and think he might die, like if they cut it there, then that would have been like, what the fuck? But at least they resolved that storyline and then set up another cliffhanger that will set up the story for the next season. Also, same thing I said about Best of Both Worlds, it's episodic. And so that's different than something that's telling one giant story and then we're just going to chop it off right in the fucking middle without... Yeah, so, as I said, I give this season a 5 out of 10, which is a negative rating. It's a 5 average, but honestly, I was thinking of giving it a 4, but because I hated that finale so much. But there were some good episodes. Like, episode 2 was amazing. Episode 5 was great. So there were some good things in it and about it. But no, fuck that finale. God, I wish Hollywood needs to stop. Needs to stop with this bullshit. They need to learn to finish wrapping up your story of the season. Don't just cut it in the middle and say, now we're going to leave it to next season. Bullshit. Finish telling your goddamn stories. See Game of Thrones and The Expanse as examples. They wrap everything up and they set up the next season, especially Game of Thrones. The Expanse not so much, a little bit, but wrap up the season, but set up the next season, leave a bit of a cliffhanger at the same time. You need to do cliffhangers correctly. I almost want to just not watch The Last of Us in protest of this. But anyway, that's my rant for today. Thanks so much for watching. Check out the channel as I cover Star Trek and all that like jazz. And be sure to subscribe, leave a like. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.